Okay, guys, we're live for the IBYE live stream event. We're going to meet some of the cool finalists today. And first on the hot seat, it's dreadful being first, isn't it?
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's absolutely awful. Is Blaine Doyle from hashtag Team Kilkenny.
Team Kilkenny.
Up the cats. Simple as that. Now, your business, it's Glow, is it Glow DX?
Glow DX, yeah. So it's Glow Diagnostics. DX is short for diagnostics.
So a very interesting one, right? I was reading this spiel here, and I was reading away. A diagnostic company, and it goes on to diagnose neglected tropical diseases.
Yeah, so my co-founder was actually from Honduras.
Okay.
And that's where we came up with the idea. We just sat down over a cup of coffee one day and we decided, let's make a diagnostic product for some sort of tropical disease that's causing havoc in the world.
Okay.
And dengue fever affects up to 520 million people every year, and yet no one's doing anything about it.
Sure.
There's still no diagnostic products actually on the market that are effective for diagnosing the disease. So we said we could come up with something that would actually solve this problem.
Cool. So interesting concept. What I'm very interested in, because I have brilliant ideas all the time, and they stay in my head as brilliant ideas, and I never do anything about them. So how have you had the dedication, the commitment, and even the knowledge to be able to take this idea and actually start to turn it into a viable business? So I know it's development stage at the moment, but
so what we did was we literally just wrote a business plan off the top of our heads first. I mean, this early business plan was nothing like it looks now. It was very far-fetched, and there was all sorts of crazy things in it. But over time, this actually started to mature into what it is now. In terms of actually the science, we went through the IBYE program, which is an accelerator run by SOS Ventures. And that kind of granted us the capital, plus actually the facilities to actually develop the test.
Cool. So you got an element of funding, which I think very often as entrepreneurs out there, we're scared of actually going out there, putting ourselves on the chopping block and kind of pitching for funding and saying we have a great idea. What is it in your DNA, to help with these tropical diseases for a second? What is it in your DNA that actually made you go for this? The entrepreneurial spirit, where's it come from?
Well, it was mad, really. Like, I mean, the idea was there, and we kind of put it on the back burner for a while, just maybe for a month. And then I woke up on the 22nd of April to a friend who would text me. It was a Bloomberg article about how the dengue cases in Brazil had tripled in the last year. And I actually got out of bed that day and dropped out of my master's.
Wow.
To actually do that. So that's kind of, it was just about like, there's a problem here, we have a solution, let's execute it. So execution is kind of the main part of it. Yeah.
That's pretty risky. It's like another Steve Jobs story, really. You know,
I wouldn't go that far, but
you're getting there. You know, simple as that. But no, that's a very, very courageous move. And you mentioned before, you know, you put the business plan down. You probably brain dumped it out, developed the concept, and it's developed into something probably quite different now.
Yeah.
What mistakes, what lessons have you learned since that day when you started?
I mean, so many.
Give me one lesson that you've learned along the way.
I mean, probably one of the biggest ones was actually when we first started doing the science.
Yeah. We
were doing a couple of steps to analyze the test itself and what we were doing to validate it. And there's a big problem in terms of contamination with these labs because you're producing a lot of DNA in our test.
Sure.
And we were popping the lids every single time and releasing this DNA into the environment. And slowly but surely, our test was picking up more and more false positives. And we were like, what's going on? And then I met a kind of a serial entrepreneur in kind of that diagnostic business. And we sat down and I just, could you give me a bit of advice? You know, is what's going on here? And he goes, you're not opening the lids, are you? And we were like, no, So I mean, like that's one of the biggest mistakes we made, but like that was cleared up within 2 weeks of getting that little bit of information. And I think that's one of the big things here in Ireland is you can almost go to any kind of serial entrepreneur or big entrepreneur and literally knock on their door, and they're quite happy to answer questions and kind of offer support.
There's an amazing piece of advice because we don't.
Yeah.
I think other people are too busy and we can't ask and we shouldn't ask, and we probably don't listen. Yeah. And you could probably still be lifting the lids and going oblivious to it if you didn't actually listen and actually ask for help. Yeah. So no, that's amazing.
I think that people in Ireland are quite open to cold calling. Yeah. As kind of abrupt as it sounds, like I think people they remember themselves when they were in that position, and wouldn't have been great to have advice back then. So
I mean, I think in a nutshell, I think people are nice.
Yeah.
You know, so if someone calls you and asks you for advice, you're probably going to give it to them.
Exactly.
So the chances are the multi-millionaire who you talk to will do the same for you, particularly as an entrepreneur.
If you don't ask, you don't get, you know.
Don't ask, don't get. So don't be afraid to ask for things. Simple as that. The IBYE experience, you obviously saw the competition, you entered it, you've done exceptionally well. You're through to the finals in Google HQ, so fingers crossed for you. What's the experience been like?
It's been like, at the moment we're fundraising, so in terms of actually the competition itself, it almost validates us for investors, which is one big help in terms of credibility. But also it actually helps develop your business plan, because every step of the way, for the county level and for regionals, you're always trying to improve your business model and actually get the idea to that next level.
Cool.
So I think it's allowed us to develop the business.
Cool. I like the idea about validating your business as well, like using this competition to knock on an investor's door and say, listen, look at this competition, look what I achieved here.
I mean, the first day of the accelerator, we had Sean O'Sullivan in with us, and the first bit of advice he was to give yourself is just de-risk your business. Always be de-risking your business. If you're not adding value to it, de-risk it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I suppose the last thing I was going to ask you is an advice to someone out there. So say someone's out there, they have a good business idea, they haven't had that eureka moment where they've hopped out of bed like you did on April the 22nd, wasn't it?
That was it, yeah.
There you go. They haven't had that yet. What advice would you give to an entrepreneur with a good, or a potential entrepreneur with a good idea?
I think that in life you should do something that you really, really love, because you're going to be doing it for a long time. And if you don't love it, you're not going to do it to its full potential. So I think you should just do it.
Sure.
No, if you fall in love with something, just do it.
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite quotes: choose the job you love and you'll never have to work another day in your life.
Exactly, that's it.
So you're choosing your passion. So go after your passion is the brilliant advice there from Blaine. All I have to do now is pretty much say hashtag Team Kilkenny.
That's it, yeah. Keep hashtags coming.
Best of luck for the finals, Blaine. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
And I'll be using your product in the near future
hopefully
to safeguard myself from deadly tropical diseases.
That's it.
Super. Great stuff. See you, mate. Good luck. Super. So that was the fantastic Blaine. And I love the fact that I'm not even going to ask him to come and chat to us now, but I love the fact that Philip is still, I can still see Philip in the background, and we haven't even had him on the couch yet. He's there. He's there, always in the spotlight, that man. Simple as that. So let's not call upon Philip, and let's call upon another very young entrepreneur that's revolutioned the taxi industry. I think a guy called Peter. He smiled, so either I've got the business completely wrong, or it's a good intro. A round of applause. We wanted a round of applause. Round of applause. Oh, that's feeble. Yeah, that's much better, much better.
It's not good when you start your own round of applause.
No, it's not. But and particularly if you don't get a decent one after now, asking for one, you know, it's even worse. So no, that's a shocking one anyway. So it's Piggyback is the name of your business. You're literally, I suppose, making the taxi business more efficient for presumably taxi firms and taxi owners.
That's it in a nutshell. So basically, I suppose going back to coming up with the idea, I was with my partner. We're based in San Francisco, and we saw what Uber and Lyft were doing. It's fantastic from a consumer's point of view, but it was decimating the taxi cab industry. I'm kind of passionate about taxi drivers. I like them. You know, they're kind of they're the PR guys of your city. You know, they're the guys you chat to. They're very knowledgeable, whatever. And I really like them, and I thought we maybe help them out with something. We were approached by Trevor Johnson, who's a taxi driver based in the city. Trevor done a lot of work collecting data on Uber and Lyft, driving discrepancies, parking offenses, all that stuff. So he became like a whistleblower for ride sharing in San Francisco. And Trevor's a good guy, smart guy, and we said we could help him out. So we spent about the next 2 or 3 months working with taxi drivers, listening to taxi drivers, understanding the taxi flow, taxi drivers. And we looked at their competitors, Uber and Lyft, and what they were operating. And what we came to the conclusion was that if there's some small way we can optimize their workflow and get them closer to where demand is happening, we can get these guys more fares. They're 45% of their time to be without a fare. It's about half the shift. Yeah. It was that statistic kind of, that's the one that hit home, for sure.
So how on earth does one even go by doing that? I mean, do you come from a very techie background?
No, I'm a marketeer, born and bred.
Love marketing.
Yeah. Marketeer, born and bred. So it helped with branding, social media, content, all that stuff. Community management stuff is all my thing. Robert would be slightly more technical, and then we brought in Ross, who's our CTO. So Ross would have graduated Carnegie Mellon, one of the top universities in the world for computer science. He's a machine learning expert. He's worked in a startup before, and we consulted with him on what we wanted to build, and he was like, "Yeah, no problem, let's do it."
See, I love this. I really love this, because I think very often as entrepreneurs, we may have the great ideas and the good concepts and the potential solutions. And then we hit that roadblock, excuse the pun with the taxis, right? We hit that roadblock where we think, well, actually, don't have the technical knowledge to do stuff. And it's brilliant to see entrepreneurs coming together, building businesses that aren't letting the lack of that background to stop them from achieving their
Definitely,
dream. So the people are out there collaborating with them and making sure that you're building up.
And it's about making yourself visible as well. I think we met Ross at a networking event, an OJS networking event in San Francisco, and that's how we started that relationship. Cool. And 3-4 months down the line, he was like, "Yeah, I want to come in and be a CTO." So it was great.
Gotta love that. And then have you, I mean, obviously with the IBYE competition comes an element of financial gain. But I mean, to be honest, much more than that. Have you gone for much funding or done much pitching?
We have, yeah. So I suppose we got 10K from the county awards. Yeah. We had money we put in ourselves. We put up about 50K ourselves to kind of run us through our first year. And we secured an angel round for 600,000 with a US investor. So that's at a due diligence stage. But we have a memorandum of understanding, which is the start, and then we'll go through vetting and then due diligence. So we were fortunate, and I pitched. It was funny. It was back in July. I didn't get New Frontiers in Limerick, and I was meant to start New Frontiers 1st of July, and there was an NERC pitching day on, and a load of Indian and American investors came to the NERC. And we pitched to them. I met Nathan Rye, who liked what we were doing, and we've just kind of gone from strength to strength from there. So it's making yourself visible. It's going to these events that are going to add value. I know a lot of guys who go to these workshop events won't get anything out of it, but occasionally you'll get lucky. You'll get a guy who's industry specific expertise, has some cash, and likes what you're doing. So that'd be my one piece of advice: is just to keep at it, keep plugging away. You will get there eventually. Yeah, and I suppose become really good at pitching, and make sure that you find the opportunities out there. So that you could have sat in a pub saying, "Oh, that event in Limerick didn't happen. It's not happening for me today." But you jumped on put yourself out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
In Ireland as well at the moment, the startup ecosystem is thriving.
Yeah.
Events like Startup Weekend, events like Startup Grind, you've Bank of Ireland getting involved in events as well. It's great, and there's some really, really good entrepreneurs here. And we're just need to change our culture. We're changing our culture currently, and it's really exciting to be a part of it.
Cool.
So, come from San Francisco, you expect a high level of enterprise, a high level of investment. It's the startup capital of the world.
Yeah.
But bringing that back home and watching it kind of develop in front of you is very, very exciting as well.
So you say something quite interesting there, which I think is a great bit of advice. If you're a startup, don't be a startup by yourself. Even if there's other startups with different businesses and different ideas and different industries, even by, I suppose, hanging out with other startups, sharing ideas, finding other events to go to.
It's the cluster mentality, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm in a good incubation center in Limerick, and we're very fortunate that we have young entrepreneurs in an ecosystem. We bounce ideas off each other. We did practice pitches till 12 o'clock last night. One of my mates, Kieran Normal, is going for Seacorn today, and Shane McCarthy from Blue Chip, another guy, and we practice in groups all the time. We're bouncing ideas, we're refining our pitch, and that's key to me. Is that kind of I don't know what the quote is, but you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And that for me is kind of a key learning in the entrepreneurial terms. We're young, we're inexperienced. We came out of college 2 years ago. A lot of us did last 2-3 years, and without that kind of support or that network, it's a much bigger challenge.
Cool. And I mean, I suppose when it comes to a business idea, and I know it's relatively early days for you, but there's a lot of learnings along the way. What would be one of your biggest learnings to date when it comes to?
Never underestimate cash flow. I would say it goes a lot faster than you think. Invest in a team and invest time in developing a team that you trust.
Yeah.
And I think trust your team as well, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs want to do it on themselves.
Yeah.
And they're farming off kind of lower level work to employees and end up doing too much themselves. And that's not sustainable in the long term. You get to year 3, you know everything about the company, but your next in line may not know so much. So I would say engaging in that kind of learning process as well, and teaching process is important. So that'd be my 2 pieces of advice: cash flow and team.
Cash flow and team, and I love the team element of one, because I think that's the problem with entrepreneurs. Is there's only one of us in a business. We want to do everything, and then we can't scale. So no, I think that's a real gem. And as regards the IBYE experience, I'm going to release you from the chair very shortly. But I mean, how's it been for you, and what have you learned throughout the process at this stage?
That there's a lot of fantastic young entrepreneurs in Ireland, and that's probably the first thing I've learned. I wasn't too sure coming into what it was going to be like. It's been great. We shot a video at the very early stages in July, submitted our application, a call for boot camp. Boot camp was great. Teresa Mulvihill ran that down in Clare and Ennis, and Padraig McAree and all the team down there did a fantastic job. Met a lot of new people. I've made friends out of that. We had a startup weekend recently in Limerick, and we brought a couple of people out of that from the boot camp. So my network's always growing. You're pitching a lot, you're refining your business plan a lot. And like I was just saying to the guys before we came on, we're at a stage now we've just really polished collateral in our business plan and our pitch deck. And I'm sure the judges will feedback to say the pitches were outstanding today. So yeah, that'll be the learning curve. It's a really good accelerated process. And I would put my hand up and say it's probably one of Enterprise Ireland's better processes. Certainly, well, from my experience, from what I heard, it's been fantastic. So in 4 months, we've not even since September, maybe 3 months, we've achieved a lot.
This was the power of having a really polished business plan and a really slick pitching deck, I suppose.
If nothing else, it gets you investor ready. Like the guys coming out of here might get their 10, 20, 40K, and then they're ready for an angel round. They're ready for investment. I would say definitely.
So we're development stage. So tell us where you're gonna go for the next year. What's going to happen over the next year?
A good one. So basically, so we've 2 pilot test groups at the moment. We're testing our app, the first stage of our app, which is driver analytics. We have our swarm feature ready in January. So that's just going to be heat mapping, so help drivers get more fares. We're going to do a non-native application that will be ready by February. And we get to roll out the application. We get native iOS and Android by kind of the late spring, and then hopefully have an app ready to launch and monetize by May.
So that's pretty ambitious. So simple as that,
It is. I think we think big sometimes, and
nothing wrong with that. And I think investors will pull you back and make you real if you're being unrealistic. But when we get to May, are you looking at testing the Irish market first, or?
So we're going to have a Dublin launch in May. So taxis will be powered by Piggyback in May, which is cool. Based on that testing, based on that kind of initial traction, we're going to launch in San Francisco, which is where my partner is and our CTO is at the moment. And then we get to take on the US.
I take on the US. Boom, boom. No, very good. Absolutely. But sure, testing it as like a small little city like San Francisco, like that,
No biggie.
No biggie, exactly. No, but that's fantastic. So really exciting times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And amazing to think that, once here, a very developed concept. You've gone through a lot of pitching to get where you are. Stuff is very clear. But to think that, this time next year, cornered the US, and it's all happening. So that's exciting stuff. So remember the name Piggyback. And what would be very unfair, having done #Team Kilkenny and all that nonsense, would be to neglect your brilliant county. It's Clare, isn't it? Clare. So hashtag up the banner, the banner. Go on. Yep. Round of applause, everyone. Yes, we got such a bad round of applause. Cheers, mate. All the best.
Right,
see you
brilliant.
Later. And from one great hurling county to another, and one of my favorite people to talk to. That's why I like the IBYE competition, is I get a chance to chat with this incredibly interesting character. Philip, how's it going?
Greg, good to see you again.
Great stuff. So, Philip, what isn't Philip doing? Let's try not to have the same conversation, which is hugely exciting, that we had last year. But
It's roasting, isn't it?
It is. It's incredibly warm. There you go. It's all these people staring at you and clapping and stuff, you know. But the reality is, Philip is cleaning up the world and banishing it of bad tortillas, quite frankly. Never again should we ever need to go into a shop and buy Doritos or anything like that, because we have a factory with some of the best tortillas being grown right here, right now in Tipperary. Isn't that right?
That's right, Greg.
So tell us about the business for the guys out there that don't know about it. And I love it. It's a bit like me deciding I'm going to produce champagne in Dublin. You're producing tortillas in Tipperary. So tell us about the business.
Yeah. So essentially, we make really, really good corn tortillas, tortilla chips. They're all natural, authentic, naturally gluten-free, and just bloody deadly. So it's a short and long story. I'll give the short version of it, but it's essentially I wanted to set up a taqueria about 5 years ago, and in a taqueria you serve tacos, and one of the key ingredients in a taco is the tortilla, and I simply couldn't get quality corn tortillas anywhere in Europe. So I quickly decided that rather than building a business off a foundation of sand, being a terrible cardboard-like substance, that I'd set up a burrito bar. We went on to win the Taste of Mexico last year, having come runner-up the previous year. So we don't do too half bad. But after about maybe 2 years of running the restaurant, I came back to the initial problem we had of not being able to find corn tortillas and whatnot. And I jumped on a plane. I went to Mexico. I hung out with Diego and the lads on the farms, learning how to.
Had to be Diego.
Had to be. Yeah. Learning how they basically grew, harvested, identified really top quality corn. And then I went to the Molinos, where I learned how they turned the corn, cooked the corn using a process called nixtamalization, which is corn, water, and lime, into a corn dough. After cooking it, they use these volcanic stone grinders. I learned how to hand carve. Serious crack. But anyway, went from there to the tortillerias, where we turned the corn dough into tortillas and tortilla chips. And then went the whole way through to like hang out with these girls who were basically making tacos at the side of the street. So you learn the whole process from seeding the ground to taco flipping. So it wasn't the worst of research trips. Now it's good crack, to be honest.
Maybe not, but serious dedication. I mean, a lot of people watch a couple of YouTube videos and think they're done, but that's serious dedication to go all the way there and to actually invest the time and the effort to really get it right.
It's a lot more than that, though, because it's not as much work when you're enjoying it.
Sure.
So, like, if you're eating tacos, having a few beers,
sure,
you know, hanging out in a farm, learning how a process works, it's
to
be very different.
The beers, okay, this sounds
a few beers, a few quarter ones. Yeah. So it's a very different process. It's not, you know, if you're, I couldn't set up an IT company because I'd go mental. I like having something sit in my hand that I can smell, taste, enjoy. I like to have something tangible. So, and anything based around, you know, learning it and going off and like, I have this thing at the moment, I might do someday, obsession about, you know, how you actually make shoes or the evolution of like the shoe. So the idea of going off to Luigi, for example, in Italy, and learning how the whole process works from cobble to leather or whatever, I think it'd be very enjoyable. So it's not as such you're setting up, it's not such a setting up business. The business should be the result of doing something really good. And obviously there's all sorts of things that come into that. But if the business is built out of something that you're inherently interested in and you feel an enthusiasm or a passion for, you're going to make sure it's bloody good, and you're never going to say give an inch with regard to quality and whatnot. So
did the trip, so when you go to Mexico and you do all this research and you find out how to make the perfect tortilla, did that even fuel the passion further than ever before, or was it there before you hopped on the plane? Do you think you're even more passionate after doing that?
Oh, absolutely. Because as well as that, like you discovered a lot of things when I was over there. Like it's like Mexico is a country of incredible history. The food is like saying Mexican food is like saying European food. Like, you know, the French don't eat bangers and mash as such. You know, it's incredibly diverse, and every stone you flip has a story behind it. Like this word of like terroir, the French use, basically relates to the food coming from the area, and like this is something as old as the day in Mexico. In that, you know, like we're doing these really cool marketing pieces at the moment, which involve us basically telling the story of a particular recipe. And it says like how this guy invented the recipe, and these are the ingredients they use, and they use these ingredients because this is the mountain, and this is the mountain, this is where the herbs grow, and the herbs grow this way because of this terrain, and this is the lamb, for example, or the sheep, and they're this way built because of this terrain. So it's all you've got this really incredible history and food culture, and they're incredibly passionate about their food, and it's phenomenal. So that kind of emboldens you to. Fills you with enthusiasm. So we came back from the wander around Mexico and launched the crowdfunding campaign, which I think I mentioned.
Okay,
last
yeah,
time.
you did, yeah. So tell us about that.
So the crowdfunding, it was and still is Ireland's most successful ever crowdfunding campaign. And essentially, we communicated to people what the idea was, where it came from, how we're going to produce the product, and we raised double what we were looking for. Which was great, but not only that, we have this base of people now who, the investors, who are not just in it for the skin or for the return. They're incredibly passionate about the product. They're incredibly helpful. They're supporting us to no end, if I can speak.
You've done a lot of talking today,
yeah.
mate, so it's all right.
So no, it's been incredible. So
it's amazing. So you went back, you did the massively successful crowdfunding campaign, and then it was action time. So you've now gone to the stage where literally you're walking around with boxes of the most beautiful tortillas in Dublin, taunting us all with them. Difficult to find, I might add. But the reality is, so tell us about how you set up the factory and the production, and now how you're going out marketing the product, because this is now an established tortilla factory that we have.
It is. Unfortunately, we're not in retail or supermarkets yet, because it's to get from food service to retail just requires oodles of cash. So what we're doing right now is we're selling to restaurants in Ireland, the UK, Germany, Luxembourg. And we're expanding that side of the business, and then hopefully next year, by the end of next year, we'll be selling into retail as well, or supermarkets as well. So that'll explain why they're gold dust. But people can order the product online for delivery to the house in Ireland, but it's not available outside of Ireland.
Because it was last year, I remember you saying to me last year, you said that, because you have your burrito bars, which are great, by the way, so the little ass burrito bars in Dublin, fantastic, but you said, listen, my goal is to ensure that our tortilla chips are in every Mexican burrito bar in Ireland and beyond, and quite frankly, any restaurant that actually wants to serve quality tortillas.
Yeah, because it's a bloody shame, that because people think of a taco at the moment. Most Irish people probably think of this luminous yellow yolk that isn't
goes black in the microwave, and
probably. So it's a shame for a country and food culture to be represented by these god awful yolks. That's not really the true representation of the food. So. As much for ourselves to see the business grow, it would be great for the food to be appreciated the way it should be. I guess I could say that.
Cool. I love your passion. I really, really do. As regards, so say any entrepreneur out there that maybe thinks, as I said, who would have thought tortilla chips manufactured in Tipperary? Certainly not me. So, what advice would you give to an entrepreneur out there that's maybe got, excuse not meant in a rude way, that's got a wild, crazy, probably bonkers idea, like a lot of people probably thought you had at one stage. No, I'm a biggest fan of it, but I'm sure a lot of people thought that's bonkers, that idea is, and look where you are now. So what advice would you give to an entrepreneur that's got, I suppose, an idea that they're passionate about, that maybe isn't the safe IT app that everyone wants to invest in?
Well, what I'd say, and I don't want to be regurgitating the words of the two lads before me, they were very very well spoken about what you should and shouldn't do. I think it's very dangerous for someone to set up a company purely for financial gain, because it will kill them. It will. If it doesn't, they're lucky. I think it's very important that they're vested in the company emotionally, or have an enthusiasm for it. And then once they have a product that they are going to be happy to produce, or a concept they're happy to run with, and they can put themselves behind it, and they can look someone straight in the eye and sell it to them, then it's incredibly important to get people around you that are like-minded in that regard and want to help in the building of the business. That's really it. Like, because the thing is, once you have the product, once you have a group of people around you who are experienced, that talented behind it, the finance would follow, assuming because that's a simple equation. That's how these things. It's not rocket science funding the business. And there's people out there who are specialists that can advise on that. And then with regard to the marketing, if you're leading with a story and you have passion for the product, the marketing does itself. Now you just need to ingrain that in the company culture, so that everyone who comes into the company, exudes it as well, and it's not just something that sits at the top of the company.
Yeah, and I like the fact you're saying more than just the money. And I mean, at the end of the day, people do business with people, and if I'm going to give money and invest it in your business, I need you to be unbelievably passionate and dedicated with what you're doing.
Well, absolutely. Like, it's you have, obviously we have respect for the money that goes into the company, an extraordinary respect for our investors. Really, really incredible guys, and we hope to give them really great returns, and I expect we will. But I think people very often forget, what actually makes them happy.
Yeah,
they do.
Of course, yeah.
People have this assumption that if they buy the new model of whatever it is, that will do it, when in reality it's not. And I think the sooner any individual understands that and figures out what their motivations are, they'll be the happier for it. And I know I get great buzz out of bouncing around Europe like a Mexican Santa Claus, dispatching tortillas and having a bit of guac and chip with a few beers. So and we're creating something really, really cool at the same time.
That's just the perfect definition for you, the Mexican Santa Claus. I mean, I think we could just cut everything now. It's the Mexican Santa Claus, simple as that. The IBYE experience this year, how you found it this year has been good.
Yeah, well, I love just having the chats is good fun,
Chats, building the network, like-minded minds.
Yeah, we'll go for a few drinks now on the 6th afterwards.
Yeah, the big final.
Yeah.
You
should come along, bring some guacamole and
trust me, I'll be there with my sombrero.
Fair play.
Simple as that. I don't know whether I'll be waving a tip flag. I've got to draw the line somewhere, but I'll certainly be there.
I'll give you a jersey for the day. You can throw it on.
There you go. Bring it along. I'll wear it. Simple as that.
So actually, I'd say before we finish, because we are currently raising a round of finance.
Okay.
So we are looking for investors. So if there's anybody with a few extra quid and wants to join the company in any manner, we'd love to chat to you. Cool.
So say there is someone out there, who would they contact? How should we do that?
They can contact me, Phil at blanco-nino.com or blanconino.ie. Any form of Blanco Nino into Google will find me at some point.
So Blanco is BLANCO and then NINO, isn't that it?
Exactly, yeah.
Simple as that. I can read the tortilla box over there. So concentrating. So bottom line is, if you're interested in Philip's story and you want to chat with them, and there may be an investment opportunity there, give them a shout. Simple as that.
Right.
Wish you all of the luck on the Sunday. You said it's the 6th, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'll have to stick that in my diary. I'll definitely be there. I think it's the 6th in Google HQ. See whether you can go one better this year after your amazing accolade next year. So
well, it's good to be here at the very least. So.
Brilliant stuff. So # Team Kilkenny, Philip of Blanco Nino.
Even Team Tip there now.
Team Tip.
What
did I say? What did I say?
Kilkenny.
Kilkenny, good grief. Sure.
Definitely wearing the jersey now, Greg. Right?
Go,
I'll see you. Good luck.
There you go.
Thanks so much.
You know? It's the Leinster boy in me, you know. Oh, we got more clapping. God, we've really warmed up. We've really warmed up with the clapping. Daniel, we've got another person here. I thought I was going to have to speak to myself for a while, you know.
Hey,
so this is Daniel Loftus, isn't that right?
Yeah, that's it.
Daniel, little did you know that you'd have a day of some very stressful pitching, and then you'd be forced, probably dragged up kicking and screaming to come in here to chat to myself.
I've never been in a minister's office now, so this
there you go. I thought the excitement was to come and speak to me, but it's all to do with being in the minister's office.
Yeah, this is it.
So you have a business, very interesting business, and kind of right up my alley, called Urban Fox. Isn't that right?
That's it.
So, because you'll articulate it far better than I will.
I probably won't, but
well, we'll give it a go. So you've done the pitches and everything. Yeah. So tell us, Daniel, what's Urban Fox?
So basically, what we provide an artificial intelligence solution for marketing managers. So our technology analyzes lots of big data and provides the marketing team with really, really straightforward analytics on their customers or their customer types. But what Urban Fox does, what a lot of other companies don't do, is we provide a layer of automation. So Urban Fox can actually make decisions on its own about what customers to target, what's the best type of customer to target. And then it can work totally autonomously if need be. So the marketing team can decide, well, we don't want to worry about, the marketing campaigns now for the next week or month or whatever it is, and Urban Fox will just take over.
Okay, so it can automate things, which is pretty powerful, particularly if it's good. The big question is, I suppose, once people mention the word big data, people get freaked out.
Yeah.
So where does the data come from? Where do you get it from?
We tap into the company. I suppose our customers own data sources. We never see the data. The data is still owned and possessed by the company in question. But what Urban Fox does, we take that data, or the technology takes that data and creates just strings of algorithms relating to that data. So we never own the data, we never see the data. It's still owned and possessed by the company as part of whatever legal agreement they have entered into with their customers. So the data on our part, we don't store it, we just store a series of outcomes and analyses based on that data.
Okay, fantastic. So you get the customer's data, which they already have but don't use it effectively at all.
Yeah.
And you actually demystify that for them and help them make better marketing decisions.
Exactly.
Do you use any other third-party places such as, listening tools online, social networks?
It's sort of interesting because when we actually won Best New Idea in the Mayo final last year, and that's where the thinking was that we would just tap into all these social networks. But there's so much noise around social networks that it's becoming increasingly difficult to pull out any useful information. So what Urban Fox does, it just ignores that because you don't need to necessarily know it. There's a certain set of metrics that Urban Fox needs to know off the bat, like age, gender, location, that type of thing. But the rest then is, how you react to certain promotions or messaging that Urban Fox has sent you. And that's where Urban Fox gets most of its intelligence, and not from just collecting loads and loads of data, because that's, you're fighting a losing battle there. Like I don't need to know how many tweets you sent out last week or the week before to figure out if you're going to buy coffee tomorrow morning. Sure,
I mean, I completely agree. I think very often the noise and the KPIs that people analyze are the wrong ones for the business. It's the business metrics that one really needs to focus on. So that would make sense. And I've always said that, the guys in Elvery selling Mayo jerseys, need to look at who bought Mayo jerseys last year as part of their marketing strategy, rather than worrying about who's talking about Mayo that are never going to buy Mayo jerseys.
Yeah, and that's it. Like it's just, my co-founder has a brilliant expression, like extracting the signal from the noise. Yeah. And that's really what Urban Fox is really good at, just finding that key indicator.
Fantastic. So it's a working model. It's up and running. You've got clients at the moment.
Yeah, we have a couple of customers on board at the moment. I suppose it's great that they, to an extent, have taken the risk with us, and we'll be expanding that in 2016. I think where we're a little bit different than some software solutions at the moment, we target enterprise level customers. So we go after the big guys, so to speak. But as a result of that, everything is just that little bit slower. Sure. You're talking to customers you know, they agree to a trial. It could be months before you hear from them again, you know, that type of thing. But yeah, it's, you know, we're providing a solution that they want, which is really important. And
fantastic. So who would be a typical customer? So not necessarily one that you already have, but who would be
like
an obvious customer?
Like I suppose, you know, a company that is selling, you know, fast moving consumer goods, they're, you know, between $0 and we'll just say $100. That range. Like we'd love to, like someone like Starbucks would be an absolute perfect client for us because it's fast, repetitious selling. So if anyone from Starbucks,
are you listening, Starbucks? Are you listening? What's your contact details?
So you can find us at urbanfox.ie.
There you go, Starbucks. You're taking that down.
So yeah, it's just, I suppose the faster businesses sell stuff, the more rich the data becomes, the better Urban Fox works.
Cool. Well, that makes sense. And again, how do the concept and idea even come around? And again, like I've said with the other guys today, how are you so brave? And what did you do to actually turn an idea or a concept into a reality?
Yeah, like I suppose I've always had this idea in my head, you know, since I left college about using economics to try and predict stuff. Now, I suppose life came a little bit in the way of that in terms of like, this is my second startup. So I had a high potential startup with Enterprise Ireland for 2 years before starting Urban Fox. And that, I suppose, took up, obviously, that was entirely what I was doing. But at the same time, it sort of taught me, well, you have to do these things, you know, first in order for whatever to succeed. I suppose the idea really came from the initial, you know, seed of the idea was about 3 years ago when myself and a friend tried to figure out, well, could you mathematically predict a good night out in Dublin or a good night out in any town? And the resounding answer to that is yes, but it depends. So it just sort of sat there for a while and thinking about it, and we did the whole product validation thing, and it was sort of going nowhere. But then we began to realize, well, hold on a minute, this machine learning stuff, which is like really cutting edge data science at the moment, is really beginning to take off, and you're able to do stuff now. Like some of the stuff we do now was impossible a year ago, was it like just off the wall 2 years ago. So I suppose when all the pieces sort of fell into position, it was like, right, well, let's just at least try this and let's see if we can make a run at it. And I suppose the IBYE then, it was fortuitous that it started last year when we started. So to an extent, like a lot of what our position here today is totally as a result of our taking part in IBYE last year. Now we didn't get particularly far. We didn't get by the regionals, but it gave us that initial capital to start. Well, let's actually do it.
Absolutely. So I mean, a lot of drive. I love the fact that there's. I mean, I don't mean it, but I love the fact that you had the high performance startup you were involved before. One business didn't work, and you had to drive to potentially go on and develop a far better business, and you're already well on the road to physical success. What possesses where does the drive come from? Where does the risk taking come from? I know a lot of people out there, we have ideas and stuff, but we're petrified of failure.
Yeah, like it's so there's a really, really good podcast I'd sort of recommend anyone to listen to called Freakonomics. Okay. It's about like practical applications of economics, but they have a really good, it's a chapter in their book, and they've done multiple episodes on it about failure. And knowing when to quit and when to give up. And that's something really, so with the last startup, we sort of knew to call it a day. Like we could have sat and we could have gone through funding rounds and kept drawing it out. And it was like, well, we're spinning, you know, we could end up spinning our wheels. So it was sort of a thing, well, look, this idea in the back of my mind, I'd go mad if I didn't at least pursue it. Like it's, I suppose that, yeah, there is an element of risk taking, but I suppose it's that calculated risk. Like, you know, everyone talks about validating your idea and validating your technology. And once you start to build that, like you're taking a risk if you decide, oh, we're going to build a product. Sure. And then we'll worry about customers. You know, for the first 6 months that we were working on Urban Fox, you know, we were out talking to customers every single day and saying, well, we have this idea, but would that fit in with what you guys are doing? How would that fit in? And I suppose we kept distilling it down, and it became this point where it's like, okay, there is an element of risk here, but the element of risk now has just gone from, you know, 99% to, you know, 50 for 40%, that type of thing. So it is about risk mitigation rather than just jumping in and taking risks.
Yeah, and I think that's great, great advice. And I think very often as human beings, we think we're right, we think we know it all, we think we know what customers want, we think something's a great product, and we jump in and we build it before actually finding out whether people really want it.
And like all you have to do is, you know, look at the amount of, you know, companies that are out there or that were out there, and they were this brilliant idea, they were funded, you know, left, right, and center, and then it was realized, well, how are they going to make money out of this? This is like, I'm not sure if you remember, a couple of months ago there was an app called Yo. It was a messaging app. All you could do was send the word Yo to your friends. It got a ridiculous amount of funding. It got hundreds of thousands of users, and I was like, why? What is this? What is the point in any of this? So, you know, I think by putting the customer first, and even to an extent, it's sort of contrived, but building the product around, to an extent, around what they tell you.
I mean, I remember years ago when Steve Jobs was talking about Apple and Apple's technology, he says, you know, we start with our customer and we work towards the technology rather than start with the technology and market towards our customer.
Exactly.
So, so absolutely what you're saying there. What's been your biggest lesson that you would have learned between your last startup initiative and this one, would you say?
A lot. Like I sort of, like the first startup, it was a great learning experience. You know, it really focused in on what we had to do and how we had to do it. I suppose one of the things that was really important from day one with Urban Fox was talk to customers. This has to be led by customers. Otherwise, it is not a business. It is just a thing we are building. So that was, you know, that was critical to us. And then to an extent, it was focusing on what needed to be focused on. So, like, I know we're very much B2B sales. We try not to spend much time on, you know, with Facebook ads, Twitter, all of that type of stuff. It's just extra noise. It's far easier for us to send an email or a LinkedIn message to someone we want to talk to, rather than essentially shouting into the void, it's like, hey, buy our product. So it was really just focusing on, you know, the two things: get the technology right, get the customers sort of bought in on the technology. So yeah, like, I suppose it's just focus. At the end of the day, you're building a business to make money. You're not there to, well, you shouldn't be there to raise your own public profile or whatever else it is. You're there to make money. And once you sort of figure out, well, what's making you money and what's not, it's sort of, you know, it falls into place.
Yeah, so your business plan has a clear money angle, which sometimes you look at businesses and there's absolutely no money angle in place.
Yeah.
So you've got that focus. You've done exceptionally well this year, obviously. Did well last year, mind you. You've done exceptionally well this year. You're through to the finals in Google HQ in less than 2 weeks now at this stage. Week and a half away. How's the IBYE experience been this year, and what have you learned from it?
It has been absolutely phenomenal. Like, again, I keep going back to so what Mayo LEO did, and I think it was sort of unique in terms of the different LEOs. They sort of pooled together with Galway and Roscommon. So instead of being brought to a hotel or whatever, and here's your practice or whatever, we went to Delphi for a weekend from Galway, Mayo and Roscommon, and it is just the ability to talk to people who aren't involved in technology. That is, and it's something we don't get enough interaction with. Like, some of the best advice I've ever gotten have been from people who aren't doing technology-based businesses. And look, this, I suppose, even sort of pushing forward and even like with stuff like this and, you know, Twitter and that type of thing, like we're getting signups onto our accounts, we're getting inquiries, which is absolutely fantastic. Like, there is an element of PR we sort of have to do, and you know, and yeah, from start to finish, it has been something I'd recommend like anyone to get involved in. Like, even if, you know, I know it's only December now, but certainly to start even thinking about it by the time it rolls around in June or July again, or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's a dangerous place, IBYE, with all these meetings of incredible minds coming together. Like, it's incredible. And as incredible friendships and business acquaintances are formed. I even noticed it from last year, like some of the, you know, even the business and nearly self-mentoring that goes on amongst finalists is fantastic.
Well, this is it. Like, at the end of the day, you know, you might have the greatest thing ever, but you have to sell it, and so does everyone else. So, you know, whether, you know, one of the guys I met at the Mayo, Donald Byrne from Big Red Barn, he just has this brilliant outlook you know, focusing on what you need to focus on and not worrying about everything else externally. So, you know, even just have conversations like that, you know, that's absolutely critical. And to an extent, like we were in an idea last year, we're in startup this year, like to be able to say to some of the idea guys, like, look, this is what they're looking for in IBYE. Like they don't want you to talk about this, they want you to talk about that, and just stuff like that. It's really great just to.
And are you hunting around for additional funding, or what's your goal?
We are and we aren't, I suppose, is the best answer for that. We're sort of fairly okay to keep ticking over now at the moment. If you know, if someone does want to come along and give us money, by all means, we'd happily listen to your offer. But I suppose what we want to do now is, you know, we can build with what we have, we can grow, we can expand a bit, and then it's, you know, once we get the market absolutely pinned down, like we're great believers in this lean concept, doing more with less, and it's like for now we don't need a huge amount of money to do what we're doing. I'd rather spend the time talking to customers rather than the time talking to investors. And that's not to belittle the work investors do, but at the same time, you have to pick your battles.
And every business is ready. You're ready to do business.
Yeah.
Simple as that. You listen to Starbucks. Is ready to do business.
Exactly.
Pick up that phone. So you're ready to go. And where would you like to see Urban Fox be? I know it's a horrible question to be asking anyone, but where would you like to see yourself in a year's time? What would you like to be doing?
I don't like the idea of like saying, oh, we're going to be the X for Y. But
absolutely, particularly when it's recorded.
Well, but I'd love to. I just think that the work the Carlson brothers have done with Stripe.
Oh yeah.
Like that, I think that should be the model for anyone in our type of, you know, software as a service, platform as a service type of thing. But I suppose, you know, in a year's time, you know, we fully plan to have an office in the States, and we're sort of investigating that now. And it's just to build a good, sustainable business. Like, you know, what we're doing is interesting. It's not particularly sexy, but we want to have a good, sustainable business to sort of say, well, actually, we're doing this really interesting thing with big data and machine learning, and we're actually making quite a good go at it. But yeah, like we've recently started working with a company in China as well. So that's really exciting, just from the point of view we've certainly never done it before, and that type of thing. So, you know, I'm not going to say, well, in a year's time we're going to be here, because more than likely in a year's time we'll be somewhere totally different. Of
course, and then maybe even better and so on. But no, you can plot the path. So you're you know, those guys in Limerick will continue doing the payments, and you'll be on a pedestal with those guys in the near future.
Well, yeah, and if they want to buy us or anything like that, by all means.
Or even Starbucks, if you're watching
Starbucks
maybe.
Yeah,
it's a couple of billion, I'm sure I can probably be
we'd settle for one.
Good deal for 1.2 billion. There you go.
Knockdown.
So in a year's time, you're going to be sold to Starbucks for 1.2 million.
Yeah, or whoever.
We've heard it here first. Yeah. Simple as that. One final question for you. Mayo for Sam for Mayo in 2016.
Yeah, I knew someone had asked me.
Why not?
I have I have less than, I have no understanding of football or anything like that, unfortunately. I know at the moment the big issue is a manager. The Mayo team is without a manager. That's about as far as my understanding. So I'll say yes, Mayo for Sam.
Absolutely. So it is Mayo for Sam is the simple answer, and we need a new manager. Maybe Alex Ferguson maybe could read up on the GAA and come over, do some fishing, and coach the boys.
Yeah, by all means.
Who knows? But in a nutshell, so it's Team Mayo. Dan, you've been very generous with your time.
No worries at all.
Really look forward to the finals, and I have my fingers crossed for you. Best
Great
of luck.
Stuff. Thank you very much.
Whatever happens, you're already a winner, mate.
Cheers. Simple as that. Thank you very much.
So, guys, that's it. I love chatting to these very, very inspirational young entrepreneurs. Makes me feel very old and unsuccessful, but there you go. Daniel was brilliant. Blaine was brilliant. Peter was brilliant, and of course my old buddy Philip. He's never shuts up talking. Simple as that. So that's hashtag Team Tipperary, because I made that faux pas earlier on. But we will be back online in a couple of weeks. We're actually going to be broadcasting live from Google HQ before the finals and meeting some other of the IBYE finalists and talking about their businesses and really what inspiration that they can share with you guys and to actually motivate yourself to go and do more for your turn your business ideas into reality. Simple as that. And we'll also be back after the finals, which I believe is on a Sunday, so I'm going to have to work on a Sunday. I'm not sure how I feel about that. But anyway, we'll also be back after the finals on the Sunday, meeting Ireland's best young entrepreneur. So that's December the 6th. Keep an eye out on more details for that. But for the meantime, it's about 5 minutes to 2 o'clock. It's a goodbye from me, Greg Fry. And thanks again to all the finalists. Take care. Bye-bye. See you soon.